So if you are wondering why our country is in this situation, it's because men are trained to be compliant. They are trained to be submissive. And anytime they push back, anytime they don't follow orders, they are told something is wrong with them.
Ladies, and now they're trying to come for our financial independence and ability to get a credit card, literally taking us back to the 1950s.
Men would rather welcome fascism than treat women as equals.
So that means that the things that would offend me if I were buying into the patriarchy still don't offend me. Calling me gay doesn't offend me. Saying I think like a woman doesn't offend me. Saying I'm feminine doesn't offend me. I remember talking about this not 2 weeks ago about how like the reason why all of this stuff is happening to women is because men are just like allowing it to happen. And the more it happens, the more men will allow it to happen, right? I remember doing a video on it not too long ago where they showed the polling from 1995 when they started polling about Roe v. Wade and a woman's right to choose to now, which is 30 years essentially. And would you know it that in 1995 it was at its highest on that chart? It was at its highest. I think like it was somewhere around like 60 some odd % of men and women were pro women's choice. Somewhere around there. Or maybe it was high 50s if I'm out. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was both men and women were pretty much neck and neck. And then it, fluctuated, and you could see times when men were like, if this was the women and this was the men, it would be like this sometimes, it would be like this sometimes, and then sometimes it would be like this, right? But now it's like this. Now the gap is 20 points, 61 to 41%. And I was saying like, yeah, that's like the more it happens, the more rights get stripped away from women, the more men will be like, that's what's supposed to happen, because they're taking the lead of other men. They're just buying into what the patriarchy is saying, right? When you ask them to, in a world where they have like more of a choice, where the highest ranking officials within the patriarchy aren't telling them this or that, and they have more of a choice to make a individual decision. They typically are close with women. You know what I'm saying? But now it's not like that. Now the patriarchy has drawn a line in the sand, and they're telling men and dictating to men, no, this is what it is.
I got kicked out of the Marine Corps for smoking pot with the Taliban, so I know a little bit about not following orders and non-compliance. And the reason our country is in this situation is because men are so submissive, because they have been trained and praised and conditioned their entire lives to be rewarded for compliance and punished for non-compliance. It's why men find it so hard to disobey direct orders, even when they are unethical orders, because men have been trained their whole lives to be punished when they don't follow orders, to be punished for non-compliance, and to be rewarded for compliance. It's a huge part of white supremacy.
And he said it right. It is a huge part of white supremacy, but it's also just a huge part of the patriarchy, which we know in this country are inextricably linked. But as a man, I can tell you that fighting against the patriarchy as a man, I'll give you guys an example of how they punish you, right? So it's really hard for me to be in groups like with men, like at this point in my life. It always kind of has been, because I've always challenged the way that men think, right? Like just in general, not even about things that specifically pertain to being a man, but just I think that I'm naturally more empathetic, and I'm naturally more logical than most men, right? I have a predisposition to logic, and I have a predisposition to empathy, let's say, right? So I would find myself in groups of boys. This is back when I was a boy, and they would say stuff and do stuff, and I would be like, that's not funny, or like, why is that funny? And I would challenge them, and I would argue with them, and they would like gaslight me and tell me I was stupid and tell me I was crazy. and they would ostracize me. They would like, they want, like, it was weird because I was a cool kid. You know what I mean? Like, co- like as a whole, I was accepted by my peers, right? I was an athlete, I was smart, I was funny, I was charismatic, I was talented. I had many talents. I could do music, whatever, whatever, right? So I was whatever. And so it was like you didn't really want to go against me um publicly because people would have to choose sides and you know what I mean, whatever, right? So you would end up ultimately kind of like alienating yourselves from groups of people. So you didn't really want to do that. But what they would do within the group is they would just like berate me, and they would like have a lot of animosity towards me and like exclude me from stuff within it was this is me like processing it now as an adult. When I was a kid and I was going through it, I just assumed it was just a part of growing up. But I've told this part of the story many times. What saved me was my older brother, who was 6 years older than me, who also has a predisposition to logic and empathy. And he would always tell me that my friends were idiots. He would always tell me all the little boys my age and even the boys that were older than me, he would be like, they're fucking idiots. Like you're like, you're right, they're wrong, whatever. And that gave me the confidence I needed to not, fall for the gaslighting. Like that was it. Like he literally, like he and him alone saved me from that. But that is a way that boys are punished and men are punished. And it's happening right now. I can't be in groups, like I find like outside of maybe like 4 or 5, 3 or 4 men. If I'm in a group of men, if there's like 5 or 6 or 7 men, I can't be in that group because 3 of them are going to be fucking men. They're going to be typical men. And I'm going to be like, and I don't hold my tongue. And I'm like, that's stupid. Why do you think that? Like I challenge their thoughts all the time. I do it to everybody. Like I can't bite my tongue. So I end up not fitting in well with them. And that is one of the repercussions of not buying into the patriarchy. It isn't always, or most of the time, it isn't like, especially when you get to a certain age, it isn't like met with violence or anything like that. It's not like you lose a job necessarily or anything like that, right? It's more like, so you pay a social toll. You get kicked out of the cult of man. But I'm here to tell the men that are like me, don't worry about that because it's not worth it. It's way more fun to not be in the cult. I'm just telling you that on the other side of it, on the other side of the rainbow, it's way more fun being me. You know what I'm saying? Being a human being.
And it's why we're seeing such a rise in authoritarianism in this country and seeing federal law enforcement officers with masks on their face. And they say that they're just following orders because men are conditioned to be submissive, to not push back against the grain. Because when they were put down, punished, and taken out of the community because we are praised for following orders. We are praised for compliance. And this is why men find boundaries so hard, because anytime you push back against one of their boundaries, they have a visceral reaction and they get very emotional because they are so trained to be compliant. And non-compliance is seen as something that is nonconformist and is a problem for the community, when in reality, nonconformity actually creates creativity, innovation, and new forms of thinking that conformity does not. And so, if you are wondering why our country is in this situation, it's because men are trained to be compliant. They are trained to be submissive. And anytime they push back, anytime they don't follow orders, they are told something is wrong with them. And that is why men will continue to just be so submissive and do what they're told instead of thinking twice about what they're being told to do.
They'll another thing they do is they call you gay as a man. Like they do that to me all the time. They be like, "You're gay, you're gay," and I always think it's funny because I could be gay, right? Like whatever, just because I have a wife doesn't mean that I can't be gay. But like from the outside looking in, what about me? And this is again, I'm not like trying to be like I'm ashamed of it or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if I were gay, I would be gay. Cool. No, who cares, right? But I'm always like the optics don't match up though, fam. Like I'm gay. Like, what about me is gay? And really the only reason why they call me gay is when I start saying stuff. When they run out of things, like it usually happens in these conversations that I'm having with men, and it's like a chess match, right? And I usually checkmate them in like 2 or 3 moves. Some of them one move, but most of them within 3 or 4, 2, 3 or 4 moves, right? And once I checkmate them, and they have the visceral reaction to their boundaries being infringed upon, and they go, "You're gay." Oh, public, you're rainbow. Like they put it in comments when I'm talking or whatever, and I'm like, what makes me gay? Because I'm not I'm not conforming to the patriarchy, so I'm gay. Fucking crazy. Like you have to be a sick individual to come to that conclusion. That makes zero fucking sense. What does my sexuality have to do with me saying yeah, men, you guys are trained like right now, which I agree with this gentleman, men, we are conditioned to follow orders. We are beat into submission by the patriarchy to just submit to it at its every whim, and we have to acquiesce to it at every single turn. And if you don't, you'll be punished. That makes me gay. But they think that calling me gay is going to make me stop because they haven't connected the dot that I have left the clubhouse. I'm not a member of the club anymore. I don't care. Revoke my membership. Thank you. I turned it in. You didn't fire me. I quit, right? So that means that the things that would offend me if I were buying into the patriarchy still don't offend me. Calling me gay doesn't offend me. Saying I think like a woman doesn't offend me. Saying I'm feminine doesn't offend me. None of those things offend me because those are the things that make me human. All those things you say about me are the things that make me the best version of myself. Those are the things that I've been working on. That's the path that I've been walking down, right? Listening to women, hearing their story, being more empathetic, listening to my wife, being more empathetic, having more patience, being open, being receptive, being able to communicate effectively. Yeah, that's feminine as fuck, but it's also effective and it's also healthy. So if you thought that calling a man who doesn't give a fuck about the patriarchy feminine, if you think that that's going to affect us, you're dumb. You're not paying attention. It's like telling me I'm going to go to hell when I don't believe in God. You're not going to scare me with that. Like that doesn't affect me one bit. God is watching you. Let him watch. I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't believe in it. So they don't know how to process that because they assume everybody thinks like them because they think like everybody. Because they think, you know what I mean? Because they're in this group thing. And it sucks. And this is like but a glimpse into what's happening right under our noses. And I'm gonna blow every single time any of these types of laws pop up. I'm gonna talk about it. We're gonna spread the message. We're gonna make sure everybody hears it and everybody, has an opportunity to go look it up for themselves.
Ladies, and now they're trying to come for our financial independence and ability to get a credit card, literally taking us back to the 1950s. There was an executive order signed 2 days ago that isn't getting a lot of attention. Restoring equality of opportunity and meritocracy. Yes, this was signed by you-know-who 2 days ago, and it could have really significant impacts on women and minorities when it comes to their finances. This executive order is targeting both parts of the Civil Rights Act as well as the Equal Credit and Opportunity Act. Talking specifically about women, the Equal Credit and Opportunity Act was signed into law in the 1970s, and it prohibited banks and credit agencies from discriminating against a woman just because she's a woman, aka back to the days of needing a cosigner, a male cosigner, for a loan, a mortgage, a credit card, or even a bank account. Now, here's the thing. Only Congress can actually change that law. It's important to be aware of this because we need to keep an eye out in the House and the Senate for any similar legislation. Now, we all know that mediocre white men think women getting a fair chance or minorities getting a fair chance at anything, just the same chance as anybody else, is discriminating against them because, of course, they're mediocre white men.
Also mediocre black men and mediocre Asian men and it's men. Men are mediocre in general. And as a black man, I can tell you because black men don't push back against the patriarchy at all. We love the patriarchy as a group. We defend it. We even defended to our detriment, which she highlighted several times in this video. She was talking about how it's the women losing rights and minorities losing rights, right? So when she says and minorities, she means men. Because if you say women, that would apply to black women, white women, Asian women, whatever, right? But then when you say minorities, if you're gonna strip women, women of this right, which means black women, which means white women, every other shade of women in between, then the only minorities left are men. So this law is going to affect women, all women, and non-white men. Again, this law that she's talking about, this bill that got passed, that got signed, is going to affect all women and all non-white men. That's why I be imploring black men to buy in to feminism. Because I'm trying to tell y'all, if you just fight for women, we win. You don't even have to worry about the race stuff. Don't even worry about it. I promise you, it'll take care of itself. If you just fight for women, I'm talking about all women. Don't fight for white women. Fight for all women, not just white women. Fight for white women, fight for black women, just fight for women's rights. If you just fight for women's rights, minorities' rights will be taken care of. Yes, the rights of minorities will be taken care of. I promise you. I promise you. Because if you just say all women, then that includes minority women. That includes all, and men are already protected. You see what I'm saying? There'll be very few things that you would have to specifically, like attack. Very few things. If you fight for the equity for women, then there will be very few things you have to go attack. But if you fight for the equity of the races, then there's still shit you have to attack. Because we've seen black men get the right to vote before white women. So that's a race thing, right? Like you can't, but if you said women, right? If you just fought for the right to vote for women, it would have took care of everything because men already had the right to vote. That would have took care of everybody. Black men, white men, just everybody would have been taken care of. Women get the right to vote. Yeah, you think they would have said, yeah, white women, black women, all the other women and not black men? No, they would have said everybody gets the right to vote at that point. Trust me, that's how it works. So that's one of the major reasons why I'm so invested into feminism, because I know that as a black person, that's my best chance. That's my best chance of actually getting equity. Is fighting for the rights to protect women, children, LGBTQIA, feminine presenting people. If they are protected, I know I'm protected. I don't even got to worry about it. And at the end of the day, the only way for this to happen is if men are down for it.
Men would rather welcome fascism than treat women as equals. Men would rather welcome fascism. They will let every single one of our rights fall by the wayside as long as they can get their bangmaids who help them and they can be little kings of their own houses. So much of the bullshit that we are seeing right now across the world is because men don't want to lose women as their indentured servants. I mean, someone was doing a calculation the other day of how much men would have to pay if they had to actually pay someone to do all of the work that they expect a housewife or a wife to do for free. Cooking, cleaning, nannying, or basically nurture and looking after the kids. And it worked out to easily about $100,000 a year. That is how much men save by having a woman as a housewife. It is in men as a whole's net benefit that the patriarchy continues to exist. They are not going to choose to make women their equals. We are going to have to fight and take it. Just like we had to fight for the right to vote. We had to fight for everything. Blood was spilled. Women before us spilled blood for us to have what we do today.
That's 100. That's it. Yeah. And men, the patriarchy doesn't benefit men overall. We think it does, but it doesn't benefit men overall, but it does benefit all men, if that makes sense. Like there are benefits that benefit all men as a collective. And those benefits, unfortunately, are very they're easy to feel and easy to see. They're very immediate. So you get like instant gratification from the patriarchy. Whereas if we fought against it, it would be more of a delayed gratification, but it would be a sustained gratification. It would be one that we wouldn't have to like keep feeding it to, to get like this dopamine hit from the patriarchy. You know what I'm saying? Like if we got rid of the patriarchy, the the overall like calmness that men would feel, the overall acceptance that men would feel, the happiness, the joy, all those things would be easier to sustain. That's just what it is. But like she said, like the gentleman before said, men are not interested in that. Uh, we are conditioned to take orders. The patriarchy functions just like a military. We are foot soldiers in it. And whenever a high-ranking official gives an order, the vast majority of men follow in suit. That's what it is. And men need to wake up. Men need to realize they're being tricked. They need to realize they're being duped. But most men don't. Most men aren't going to. And so she's right. It's going to take a lot of women and some men. We're going to need some men to step up. We don't need everybody, but we're going to need a lot of women because, yeah, it's going to have to take a lot of women. And we're going to need some men to step up, definitely, to change things. And I'm more than willing to put in the work and fight for sure.